Capital Outlay Committee for December 2nd, 2025 at 11 a.m. promptly. I would just remind everybody, if you're going to record this meeting, you must let the chair know now. Hearing none. Can we just go around and introduce ourselves for everybody in the room? Scott, you want to start?
You're mute.
You're on mute, sorry.
Scott Norm from the Finance Committee.
Michelle?
Michelle Galucci from the Finance Committee.
Rich Larius, Capital Outlay.
Martha Donovan, Select Board Member.
Ann Tucker, Planning Committee.
Tony?
Tony Schiavi, Acting Town Administrator.
Awesome. Can I start with getting an approval for the minutes from November 19th?
So moved.
By motion by Scott.
I second.
Rich seconds. All in favor? We have to do, we vote.
Aye.
Michelle, aye. Scott?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Ann? Aye. And myself, aye. 5-0. Great. So today we have a number of committees, a number of departments to go through. I was surprised it's more than we thought. So we'll try to be as quick as we can. We have the school committee coming around noon time. And let's start with the library. So Ginny and her team.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The library director, and we have two trustees here, Linda Spula and Joe McCarty. So we have a project that's already on the capital plan for fiscal 27 and fiscal 28. But for this year, we're asking for this 27 to 31 plan, we're moving the project back a year. So there'll be $40,000 in fiscal 28 for a space study and development of plans, and in 29 is $150,000 for construction work.
And I'm just going to stop you there to say that just for the members, this project was included in facilities previously, but we've broken it out.
Yes.
So the library, because it's not really a facilities project, it's more of a redesign project.
Yes, it's not a facilities project at this stage. Once we have the design work done and we know what we want, then we'll turn over to facilities to manage the construction
Okay,
process.
okay.
So the purpose of this project is to reconfigure the interior floor space of the library to accommodate changes since the last major renovation was completed in 1998. So in 2028, it'll be 30 years since that happened, but it'd be 34 to 35 years since that project was designed. So it's been a long time, and a lot has changed in the library field and how people use the library, how they access information and resources, and what services they've come to expect. So we're not seeking any major modifications, really just more modest changes to the interior floor plan within the existing building footprint. So as I said, once the design phase is finished and the construction begins, then it becomes a traditional facilities project.
So Ginny, would the facilities people would be able to do all of the construction? You're not going to need outside help?
No, they're just going to manage it.
Well, we'll have a consultant with the $40,000 to do the design plans, and
Right.
But I would assume, like any other, then it becomes more of a construction project, which is what DPW.
So they can
manage.
do like all the, whatever,
Or they
building, electrical, the facilities group
Oh,
can do
no,
that?
No, they're managing
No,
it.
Oh, okay, okay.
They may hire outside.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I
I
wanted to
assume they
know.
would
Okay.
be hiring outside
Got it.
workers. I meant the facilities manager would manage the project.
They would hire the people
Yeah,
and figure out who was
oversee
going to do the work?
project, yes.
Okay, great.
And we would include the facilities manager in the design part too. But
Right.
it's not, it's more, that phase is really more about, from the library point of view, what do we want? This isn't trying to fix a building system or a problem with the, building envelope or anything like that. So, what was I gonna say? I guess that's it. I think you probably received the notes that I had on the justification. The areas that we'll investigate include improving what we call the discoverability of materials and resources through consolidating collections, improving functional locations, so things are where people are looking for them, and shelving and display areas, separating quiet spaces from areas that have more interactive activity, One area where we have a huge issue is our young adult collection is separate across the main floor of the library, so they're not co-located together. And a big need we see is adding small group study rooms and video conferencing rooms. So this is different than the room use the community center has, because these are more for small informal groups. Maybe it's a study group, maybe it's tutoring, maybe it's someone doing an online meeting. We're looking into, libraries are becoming places for remote court appearances. So you could, log into them. And also remote driver's license testing, which we have had a few people do. You can't do this at home. Well, you have to have a good environment, good internet, but also any movement in the background shuts off the test. So there's things like that that are even more than now that are coming down the pike. And most modern libraries have several small meeting spaces for people to use for that informal use.
Will parts of the library be closed during the construction, or?
We don't know what,
Don't know yet.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We have not, we've had carpeting replaced and been open and, accommodated that, so I don't really foresee that, but I don't know.
So this is a project that's been on for a number of years,
And the other, I just want to say about the public is, it's not, for the staff, we have very inadequate staff workspace. And that is meant to deal with some of that issues too. Storage is a huge issue, but also just the amount of floor space devoted for that. So both the public and staff operational purposes.
Okay. Scott has a question. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. I'm just curious how you came up with the $150,000 figure for the actual work. I assume that that's pretty much of just a marker, since you haven't even performed the study yet, and we'll get an updated number once the study is completed, right?
Yes, that's correct. But again, we're not looking for major changes. The rooms are all pretty square. It's not, we don't have little nooks and crannies that we'd be doing things with. So I don't see like walls changing or, maybe one thing we've looked at is potentially moving the circulation desk into the middle of the main floor of the library, which would reduce like evening staffing needs to supervise the kids in the young adult area. So,
And perhaps new equipment for the video conferencing functions would be needed?
sure, we do have some money in a technology article, and perhaps that. We do have a lot of, many areas in our staff work areas where we have daisy-chained, there's not a lot of electrical outlets or wired internet connections, and so that's something that may be included. Some of that might get included in the IT department's project, but their consultant seems to be looking more at wireless, and we need wired for our clams connections for our automated system.
And
Okay, thanks.
are there any grants that might?
No, it's not big enough to qualify for a state construction grant.
Yeah.
We've had some neighboring libraries that started out with a small project and they got working on it, got bigger, and then they got a state grant, and then the town turned down the grant because, it was half the cost, say, but it was still a significant amount.
Okay.
So we're not looking for that.
Okay.
Just more minor tweaks.
So other questions from committee members on the project? I think it's pretty straightforward, Jenny. We've been looking at this for a number of years. I think we've encouraged you to do it sooner,
We
although you've been
have.
cautious and wanting to make sure you got everything right, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for coming. All right, planning is up next. Good morning.
I'm Christine Flynn. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development. And,
First time we've met. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your time today. The Planning Department, one of the initiatives that we're looking to implement is updating the town zoning map as recommended by Mass General Law and the town's zoning requirements. It's critical that we have an accurate zoning map for land use decisions and basic planning. And it's become apparent that the zoning map, there have been some discrepancies with some of the delineations. So our goal today is to request $100,000 to begin that process to have the town's zoning map updated and certified with all district boundaries as well as overlay districts and special districts identified on the map. And in order for the town to have an accurate map, it should be reflected as accurately as possible. And to do that, we would need to hire a professional engineering and land surveying company to do the work. And it's our hope that we can accomplish this within the next 2 years. We anticipate this sort of a project may take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And just for the record, I was not successful in getting cost comparisons from other communities, but I did put that out as an earmark.
Okay, Christine, I'm going to stop you just 1 second. I just want to, for the record, note that Paul Doan joined at 11:10. Sorry. That'll help Judy when she does her notes. Go ahead.
And so this is just a very simple, this is fairly straightforward and a simple ask that we're looking to earmark.
So could you give, just for me, since I don't understand how this all works, could you give an example of a place where you would have thought, like, something was zoned one way, and then you find out, oh, no, it's zoned another way? Like, is that what's happening?
No, it's really the clarifying the boundaries of the zoning districts. We've had 1 or 2 projects recently where there was a question of the zoning district boundaries, and in the zoning map, there was a discrepancy that one did have an independent peer review look at the zoning delineation. Our zoning map was incorrect. And so there have been also, over the past several years, there have been several zoning updates to district boundaries and that have not been reflected in the zoning map. So this process will help clarify that.
So we get the zoning map correct for whatever changes have been made over the years, and who decides how things are zoned? How does that happen? Sorry, I don't
That's
understand
done
zoning at
through
all.
annual
Town
town
meeting.
meeting
Okay,
process,
okay.
and that requires a 2/3 majority vote of the town voters.
Rich?
What defines a zone and what currently, how many zones, type of zones are there? Because I think the common residence lives in a residential zone, but knows no other zone perhaps. So how many zones are there? And
So we have several. For example, we have an industrial limited zone that's in various parts of the town. There's also commercial highway, which is considered along Route 28, for example. We have a commercial highway 1 along Route 28 and a commercial highway 2 that's in East Harwich. We also have several residential zones for medium, low, and high density thresholds, in addition to overlay districts as well. You'll notice in Harwich Port, we have what's called the commercial village zoning district, and then what's called the commercial, or the village commercial overlay district. And
Those
we
are two
also-
different things.
They're two different
Okay.
things, so it's an overlay
And they
district.
overlap.
Okay.
And, for example, Harwich Center, along Main Street, we have, that's a commercial village, zone, but Harwich Center overlay district, is, overlaps with that.
Okay.
So that would be an example, or the Six Ponds, special district, district of critical planning concern, would also be another, zoning district.
Ann had a question.
that's not.
I know, I got Ann first.
Can you explain the headache this is to both applicants and the town? Because it sounds like a nice to have when it's really become critical.
It's, I wouldn't say, describe it as a headache. It's more of a housekeeping matter that we want to make sure that we have accurate information and that the town, for both in fairness to the applicants as well as members of the public, voting members of the public, have as accurate information as possible.
Well, it does become a headache. I just want to make that point. Sitting with meetings where applicants don't know, or they have to go back multiple times, it becomes incredibly expensive. And it's just about, you know, the ticks and ties that haven't been done over the year. We've talked about this for at least 5 years internally to get it done. So I think, I mean, it comes up in almost every case, especially the complicated ones. So
And you're speaking from the planning board perspective.
speaking
Sorry,
from the
just so
planning
people
board
know.
perspective, about where things are or what needs to change or when it changed. There was one case that came to mind where a church was trying to divide off a piece of property, and we couldn't tell them for a while whether they were in the Six Ponds or something else, and it took months to kind of
And so this
clear
will
up.
clarify some of
This
that.
will help
Yeah.
clarify
Yeah.
those issues.
Scott, question?
Yeah, I was looking at the website, and this would be an update of the first map. It's called the color zoning map on your website, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And that would also include an update of all of the town-owned properties, which obviously has changed over that long period of time, right?
This would be separate to that. This is
Okay.
for the zoning districts and overlay districts and special districts. This will
Right.
not be outlining town-owned properties.
And
Okay.
you said, you know, mass law requires you to update this. How often do they require you? to
So
update?
that was a mistake. I should have said, Mass General Law recommends that towns adopt zoning maps. However, our zoning bylaw 325-2 references that the town has a zoning map. And it's always, as part of best planning practices, municipalities should have a zoning map. Because, for two reasons. One, it helps with planning purposes in terms of how we want to regulate land use development, but it also provides needed information for residents and what district are they living in, and what, if they want to make changes to their home, what's allowed, what isn't allowed. So it helps clarify that information, plus it provides a great visual.
And
for
is
the
there
town.
any guidance in either mass state law or in our bylaw that says it should be updated every, I don't know, 10 years? I don't know what the number would be, or what is the best practice for updating, I guess, maybe?
Oh, if I can say, I think it's only if it changes, right? So you shouldn't have to update it. I think what Christine was referencing, I think where some of the problems develop is
Yeah.
when you look at a map, obviously there are boundaries. And so if you're in the middle of something, it's pretty straightforward. I think is when we get projects or we're trying, and you're on that's why the delineation, know exactly where those boundary lines, that's why when she mentioned surveys and things like that, those become critical if somebody's proposing a project that's, you know, say right on a boundary between one district and another. Planning board and others have to look at that and actually verify and make sure that what they're applying for is actually in the district that supports what it is they're looking to build.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of thinking forward, like, is this an exercise we plan every 10 years, every?
I think it's only for
We
change.
No. And I understand sort of zoning laws may change over time. Massachusetts is sort of looking at changing those. Is that going to cause us to have to change it? Like, let's say, I don't know this stuff, so I'm just asking, but, you know, if you go down, you need an acre to build now, let's say you go to a half an acre, does that change how that map would be used or anything that needs to be updated in that map?
It depends. And so, if there are changes, so long as the district boundaries don't change, then, the criteria within, that district, if that's the only item that changes, then no, we would not be changing the boundary of the district. This process, the map is really to identify, the district boundaries. As Tony said, when there are projects that are in what's called a split zone, or they include more than one zoning district, it's vital that we have accurate information to help boards decide what criteria and what regulations they're evaluating depending on where the project is.
So let me make up a ridiculous example. If the state came in and said, okay, you could build tiny houses in industrial zones, would that affect how you would look at the map?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're really looking at the micro level, and the macro level is your definition of
Yeah.
looking within.
So my questions are more related to, we do it now, and then all of a sudden, in 5 years, everything changes, we have to do it again, kind of a thing.
No, in this instance, this is, unless the town decides to change, a district boundary or create a new district, then the map would need to be updated accordingly. But this project is really to update all of the
Got
zoning
it.
district boundaries, and going forward, as needed. This would need to be updated from time to time, but not every 5 years, not every 10 years. It
Quick
depends
question.
on what the wish of the town.
When was the last time this was done?
There are several iterations where the town has updated the map from 1972 going forward, and I believe the last time it was either 2011 or 2018, but it has not,
Okay,
Not all the
Yeah.
way through.
so it's not, we're not gonna worry about it next
Correct.
year.
So you're gonna hire a consultant who's gonna come in and do this? Is that how it works?
it would be a private firm, either engineering and land surveying firm, because it's a firm that has, the work has to be done by a professional land surveyor. In Massachusetts, when you're doing property boundaries or zoning district boundaries, a licensed professional land surveyor are only allowed to be able to certify boundaries in Massachusetts.
This sounds like always very put you to sleep kind of work, but we have the support, I think, from the zoning commission, the zoning board. I mean, it comes up more than not.
Right.
When it's not clear, it puts everybody,
Yeah, no, I don't, I
Can
totally
be a
understand
headache.
why we wanna do it.
I've tried to put a more positive
I can
spin
think
on
of
it.
a couple of cases this year where it was a headache and expensive for the applicants, really expensive.
Okay. Any other questions online? Any questions? I think we're good. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for answering all our questions. That was an education for me, I'll say.
We'd be happy to have you on the planning
Yeah.
board. Indeed.
Amy's up next. Conservation.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Amy Usowski. I'm your Conservation Administrator, and with me in the audience is John Harker, our Harbor Master, and Stephanie Ridenau, our Natural Resource Director.
They wanna come up.
They've already been through the torture, so they just came back for
You can
more.
come more.
Got backup, got backup.
I've got backup. If you have any questions that I can answer, maybe they can. But I think, so we thought it was time to bring you folks into the fold on this project. This is the Herring River Stormwater Retrofit Project. It is part of a regional project across Cape Cod called the Cape Cod Boat Ramp Stormwater Retrofit Project. And we're actually not talking about the ramp itself. I think John already told you about the ramp.
Right.
This is actually the flat parking area that leads from Route 28. If you're familiar with the area, you go by at really, really high tides, there's water completely flooding the parking lot. The purpose of this is to better manage stormwater that's coming off of Route 28 and also the paved apron, as well as stormwater in the parking lot itself when it rains, to help improve water quality into the river. any contaminants that are in the lot. It's pretty, even though it's not, the whole thing isn't asphalt, it's so packed that it's pretty much impervious, and everything pitches right towards and into the river. So, over the past several years, their predecessors, myself, the Association Preserve Cape Cod, and the Horsley Witten Group have been working together on design and permitting to improve that condition. Grants were received, administered through APCC for design and permitting, and so there's been no cost to the town. And it's not the intention to bring cost to the town, but there is that possibility, so that's why we're here too. So most recently, we're at the point of getting to doing implementation, and we were hoping to do that after the water main work was done. That's gonna go underneath the Herring River and kind of come up through this parking lot, but we don't wanna rip it up
And that was
twice.
delayed.
And that
It was delayed,
yeah.
but that's okay, because
It gave you time to get
this
your
gives
act
us
together.
time to,
Or get through your process, I should say. I don't
Right.
want to imply you don't have your act together, but
right.
yeah, just get through the
Understood.
process, which takes time.
So design and permitting are pretty much done for us. We applied for a grant for implementation in the amount of $348,214. And that was to regrade the parking area, to decrease slightly the impervious area, to put in stormwater, vegetated swales, and raise the parking lot a little bit, so that in more average tides, you're not flooding. So it's not perfect, but better than what we've got right now. So we applied for that grant from Mass Coastal Zone Management, and unfortunately, we were only awarded $44,745 for that. They wanted to fund it really just for 1 year. I think there's just a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. But that being said, it is our intention to pursue more grants, pursue this same grant again, because if we can take that little bit of money that they gave us and advance things, we're hoping that they'll give us the rest next grant round. But wanted to make you aware of this project, and I put it on as a moderate priority and at no operating cost at this time for the town, because we do intend to try to get other financial funding for
So,
this.
Tony, maybe you can help us understand, there's the 28 water pipe replacement that's gonna go on.
Mhm.
There's the repair of the ramp,
Ramp, yep.
and then there is the project around conservation and fixing the runoff, I guess I'm gonna call it. Is that all happening around the same time? Is it coordinated? Does it need to be?
Well, I think first is the water, right? So, we expect that to start imminently, right? We have the dry pipe going in at the same time. So they're gonna directional drill under the river, come up in the parking lot. So that should lead that effort.
Yep.
John, do you remember what year you had the boat ramp in?
This year, it's in 2027.
Okay, so we expect the,
2027.
Yeah,
yeah, so,
FY '27.
so that would be second, right?
Yeah.
And then the project that Amy just discussed would be third. So they're kind of sequenced out.
In a way that makes sense, and so when all this is going on, do you have to set up, I don't know, I'm gonna call them barriers or something, so that
Yeah.
there isn't a disruption in the
Sure.
Herring River related to any of those other projects? Is there work you have to do around that?
Not me personally or my department, but the contractors will have to do, for any in-water work, they'll have to do siltation booms, they'll have to set up it for this project and for the water pipe, erosion control on the property, to make sure sedimentation doesn't go onto the salt marsh that
Yeah,
is
because that's
there.
just a pathway down, the way that thing works. It's-
Yep, and so when John redoes the ramp, same type of thing. And we've all been, Jason in the water department, myself, John, Stephanie, we've all been coordinating these projects to hopefully happen in sequence.
Okay. Rich?
In your description, I sort of got to read, maybe I could be incorrect, which I am a lot. this a complete solution for you, for your department, for this
The problem.
expense of 300 and, I guess it was 346 or whatever that number is?
Yeah.
Is the solution completed, or are you like 80% of a solution? Are you 100% of a solution?
There is really no way, given the topography, the low elevation, and the tightness of the space, to completely comply with state stormwater standards on this site. It's not possible with the level of the tides and the other things I mentioned. This gets us a lot better than what we were. We can't elevate it more. This is pretty much what our consultant, Horsley Witten Group, APCC, and us have determined is really kind of the best we can do for this site.
At this time?
Correct.
Tony, are there any, like, storm
done.
drains over there? Like, does DPW have anything that they can do to help with that?
Not that I'm aware of,
It's
although I
Route
haven't.
28,
Yeah.
so
Oh.
it's MassDOT, there's no drains.
Well, my point is, are we going to anticipate that something 3 or 4 years down the road, there's going to be another effort like this being requested?
I would estimate not 3 or 4 years, 10 to 15, 20 maybe. So it's just a very dynamic area because it is so low in topography. If we want to continue to use that parking area and ramp, this is something that we have to do to get some longevity out of it.
Yeah, because some of the issues Amy talked about are, I'll say, nature-driven, right? I mean, in terms of tides, and, there's really not much we're gonna be able to do about that, but this helps take I'll say, a reasonable size chunk of the degradation away, which is, again, the runoff that's coming from the roadway and that sort of thing that could have other types of contaminants in it that we can now, prevent from going into the river, so, but again, I'm not sure in a lot of these you ever get to 100%, you're gonna take out 100% of what's going on, but because some of it's not man-made, right? So it's sort of taking care of what I would say is kind of the man-made problem of stormwater runoff from the roadway down into the, parking lot area and into the river.
Are there other, that's like a little bridge, right, that goes over,
It goes over the river there.
over the river there.
But this
So
is-
like on the other side, is there, on the other four corners, are there other issues coming up, John?
Well, the other side is part of the old Irish pub.
Yeah, that's what I'm
property.
asking, yeah,
This
because
is
that
the-
kind of has the
right,
same
yeah.
sort of
Yep,
trajectory.
right. I think in general, stormwater runoff's an issue both for water quality, shellfish, things like that. The other side on basically the south side of the bridge, on the other side of the river where the dentist office is, it's vegetated. There's not that issue
Right,
there.
right.
But over by the Irish pub,
I mean, there were a lot of, I don't know them all, but there were a lot of issues
Yeah.
when the Irish pub was trying to get restarted with septic and
Yeah.
just drainage and all that kind of stuff. And
Right there.
is there something you think at some point there's a project over there? Or is that
for the
private
town,
property?
it's
Is it
private, that's private property.
all the way up to the water line is private property?
I don't know exactly, but it might be state, part of the road, the
Yeah,
28 MassDOT road layout.
I see, okay.
I'm John Harker, the harbor master. I just want to also note that the ramp construction is inevitable and necessary to have the lot construction done. So you really can't do the ramp and not have the parking lot. So
Correct.
that's why, she's been shepherding this forward, because from a conservation perspective, to just do the same kind of lot that we have now, it's not effective. It wouldn't present any kind of solutions in the future, so that's why having these
Mhm.
extended efforts to have some proper drainage coupled with a new ramp, I mean, it's kind of the full package deal to make that area and usable and then safe and then environmentally conscientious, because, the difference on the other side of the bridge too is the traffic. I mean, you don't have the vessels going in, the trailers, the
Right.
vehicles, that's more recreational, people walking
So
over there.
let me ask the, severe question of, why do we have a ramp there? Like, should it be somewhere else? We're spending a lot of money on a ramp, like,
It's a highly used ramp. It
Mostly
is
like kayakers kind of a thing?
kayakers, boats,
Small boats.
mooring service agents, people that are having their docks brought in or taken out. I mean,
Oh, they
it's an
take it
egress
out.
point
Okay.
that is really,
There's
really.
no other
There is-
anywhere on the
there's
river, and
absolutely
there's
no-
no other place on the river that would make sense for
We
something like
have
that.
no town property on the, other than the Wixon area, but that's not a launch area anymore, it's just a communal dock,
Right, right.
essentially. There's no other public access
I just feel like
the
I need to
water.
ask that question,
Or-
like if we're spending all this money, what if you didn't do any of that and you sort of let it just be naturally or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Scott has a question. Yes, Scott.
Thanks. One of the pollutants that is included in runoff is nitrogen. And I'm curious about the way in which this project can help fulfill the town's obligation to reduce the flow of nitrogen into the Herring River. That's one of the 5 watersheds that we have a specific obligation to reduce nitrogen running off. And is there a way, I assume there is a way that this project can be quantified in terms of that benefit so that it helps us achieve those nitrogen reduction targets and maybe goes a tiny way in saving us money in the other strategies that we use, mainly sewering, to achieve those reductions. Wonder if that could be included in the project so that we can get credit for that.
We can certainly discuss that with APCC and Horsley Witten, our consultant on this. I don't know what the quantified amount would be for reductions. This is, it's a pretty small spot, and we can't get traditional stormwater infrastructure in there, but there certainly will be some improvement because it's not going straight into the river anymore. There's gonna be a little bit more bio-infiltration,
Right.
of the water, which will remove some of
Yep.
the nutrients.
So when you say we can't get stormwater infrastructure in
Like
there,
catch basins.
that's
or-
because of, it's the state property, or that's because it's just top of, geographically
low.
not okay? Not a
Because
good
your
way to do it.
Groundwater is right there, there's
Okay.
not separation of
Okay.
groundwater. So this lot was built on top of salt marsh. It was squashed down
And
to
there's
make
no,
this.
there's no way to bring it back, like, because it's private property behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and then the state, so it's a pretty steep
Yeah, I've been over
entrance
there,
to
yeah,
begin
yeah.
with. So we are bringing it up slightly, but there's not enough for, like I say, either catch basins or leach pits or things like that in here, and that's why, and I'm happy to share with you if you're interested, the plans. We have, again, we're bringing the grade up a little bit, doing pervious pavers and doing retention, bioretention swales to better infiltrate.
I trust that you guys have really thought this through. I just, it's just,
Yeah.
I feel like I would be remiss if I don't ask those extreme questions, like, why are we spending so much money? Is there a way to
Sure.
change it? But
Yeah.
go ahead, Ann.
Environmentally, can you describe how fragile that, the Herring River is right now?
So as Scott had said, we have a TMDL on
Yeah.
the Herring River, and that's
What is
for
that? Sorry?
total maximum daily load, and it's set
Okay.
by the state. Basically, it's considered an impaired water body because it's
Impaired,
excess
yeah.
nutrients, it's eutrophied. So the Herring River used to have, it still has a lot of shellfish, thanks a lot to the efforts of our natural resource department. But there used to be eelgrass beds in there, and there's only remnants now, and that's because the water clarity is down. We're seeing, proliferation of growth of other types of plant life in there, invasive plant life. And the water quality is degraded. To what extent, I can't answer that other than saying that we have to remove we're required now to remove a certain amount of nitrogen from our water bodies. So this certainly will, in a small way, I think, help with that. Do you have anything?
Stephanie Ridenauer, Natural Resources Director, Shellfish, and I think the other thing to add, you asked about importance and who uses it. Special note, that is like a primary access point for our commercial shellfish permit holders, and the only other access, so if you are accessing that area for shellfishing, for your mooring, the only other way really that you're getting in there is if you go out into Nantucket Sound. That area just opened yesterday for commercial and recreational shellfish harvest, so the months in which the Herring River is actually open to harvest, chances are you're probably not gonna be taking your boat out, from one of the harbors out into Nantucket
Right.
Sound and then traveling around and then
Yeah.
up the river. You're gonna be accessing from that, so time of year should be considered relative to shellfish openings and closures. Shellfish habitat, we do a lot of stocking there, and our commercial shellfish permit holders actually assist the department with that and location, but we've definitely lost a lot of bottom, and that's why we have such strong collaboration with our permit holders that are out there actually raking, because there is a lot of bottom in there that is muddy and anoxic, and when someone, comes in and wants to dredge, we'll encourage that, because we want that good bottom back. We've lost a lot of eelgrass, and all of that contributes in a negative way to that poor water quality.
Tony, is that area one of the, there was that project with the state of the most flooded areas and everybody picked a certain number of places in town that are consistently underwater in big storms. Was that area one of them, do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
Low-lying road study?
Yeah, yeah.
So because it itself is not a road, wasn't
Oh, it doesn't
part,
count.
but in this general area, the North Road area north of here was one of the higher
Right.
priority ones. So yeah, this area is at or below sea level.
Because it was all marshy and we built on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
the only other thing I'll add for water quality is that's part of our herring run, so it's one of the
Yeah.
top herring runs
True.
in the state of Massachusetts. Had years we've had 1 million herring come through to West Reservoir, and that's how they get there. It's
Yeah.
a really important
Want
body
it
of
to be
water.
clean.
So when will you know if you get CPC funding?
Well, we didn't apply for it because we found out that we didn't get this grant after that.
I see.
We put other CPC requests in this year. So the request, if we need it, won't go in until next fall. But in the meantime, we're gonna be looking at additional coastal zone management grants, potentially some natural resource conservation service grants, and really anything else that we can look for to get some money to make this up.
We appreciate that.
Okay. Thank
Any other questions from committee members? You're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
all for
you.
coming. Thank you. Okay, we have a few minutes before the school gets here. Tony, you mentioned in this version of the capital plan that you changed some funding sources. Can you tell us what sources you
Yep.
changed?
Well, one I changed and one I didn't, but, and unfortunately it didn't, I'll make sure we get it on the next, I highlighted a couple of things in the other funding column, because that can be a variety of different things, could be grants, could be different sources, so what I started to do is to color code them, and then
Oh, I see.
I'll have a notes section at the bottom of the last page that'll identify what the source is for those highlighted items. Didn't get on your printout, there's only two of them.
This round, okay.
So, the $60,000, that's the school project, so the note for that just delineates that that's coming through on the assessment
Correct.
that we get from the schools, so it's not a separate, item that we have to, fund per se. And then, and again, I just happen to choose the community center roof project, so we have what's called, it's kind of a unique name, you might see it referenced as the sinking fund. And essentially, it's, and I think it's called Registered Receipts Reserve, but it's money that came from, what I understand, the sale of properties or whatever that can only be used for supporting capital projects. So we had about $1.5 million in what they call the sinking fund. And so I chose to, pick a project to use $485,000 from the sinking fund as it relates to the community center roof replacement.
So I've never seen the sinking fund, and I haven't been here that long, but I've never seen that be used for capital. I didn't realize that was available for capital.
It is, and I don't remember which town meeting it was, if you go back and look in Article 4, where it has all the funding sources, I don't know if it was in the May 25 one, but I printed out, I think, going back at least 4 or 5 years, and you'll see a sinking fund in there. Now, that could have been coming through to pay for capital items that came in below the threshold, don't know exactly, what they, used them for back then. But that's the purpose of that particular fund.
And is
so.
there like a goal or a policy of how much we should keep in that fund, or
Not really, it just
it's up
depends on.
to you to decide how you want to
Yeah, it's not
spend it?
one that, grows over time unless there's a specific,
And it's,
sale of a property that says that's gonna go into that particular fund,
and it's mostly from sales of property.
is what I was told by the
It
finance
seems
folks.
like the sinking fund was used by Sean to make improvements to the Brooks Academy.
Could be, could have
Those
been.
kind of ones that they did internally, painting or replacing some moldings,
Yeah, could be, yep.
and he referred to it, I know,
The
because
sinking
it
fund?
had come
Yeah,
from
that sounds.
another
familiar.
sale of.
I think it was
town.
on Queen Anne
We
Road, I
hadn't,
think
we
it
hadn't
was,
sold much.
it may have been the sale of the property on Queen Anne Road, the former pet cemetery
Oh, yeah.
location.
Yeah, that's right.
That might have been, I can find out the
Yeah,
source.
I think you're right.
I think it may have been
I
that.
forgot what he said was the source,
Yeah.
but I know it's.
Now, I'll be moving some other items to the other column, so as you know, I've been working with some of the departments.
Did you get a free cash number yet?
Yeah.
No, we're still answering questions from people. So,
okay.
It's been long and arduous, trying to answer all the questions, but obviously that means somebody's looking at our file, so. But anyways, I had mentioned previously, I've worked with a number of the departments on repurposing, I'll say leftover capital money or capital money that was previously authorized that wasn't needed. And so as I finalize that list, some other items may move over as a funding, to use that funding source for a couple of these projects. I just gotta see where it makes, I'm trying to do a one-for-one, for instance, DPW had one, I think it was,
There was money left
it
over.
may have been
in it.
accumulation, but let's say it's 225, I'll look to pick a project where I can fund the whole thing, so it makes it a little
Oh,
easier
instead of
for,
in fractions.
for writing the town meeting,
More, I got it.
article.
This is the other funding column or the
So that would go in
available
other
funds?
funding, so that would go into other
Other fund.
funding.
Other, okay.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it'll go in available funding. I see what you're saying, Paul. Yeah, I haven't picked a column yet, but it'll be identified over there. Maybe it's under
But
available
is it-
funds, because it's
I didn't know
already
what the
available.
distinction was between other and
Yeah,
available.
no, you're right.
The tenth we're
Yeah, it
letting
probably
them know.
goes in there, would be a better way to do it.
And the community preservation funds haven't been announced yet, is
I
that
don't
correct?
believe so. I
Right,
think
so
there's a
that's the-
date. It might be in the next couple of days. I don't have my timeline where if they ask for additional materials and stuff, there's a deadline in early December.
Right, we're on it,
for
we're
those.
almost on it for that one.
Say that again, Ann.
I don't, and right now, I don't know of
There's
any.
not any of these that
I don't-
probably meet the
We
CPC?
didn't- There weren't any that applied for?
I don't believe so. I do not believe that any of these had a CPC request. Now, I don't remember if it was Amy's projects we just heard about.
Which ones would you think would be
I was
CPC
just-
eligible? Yeah.
Trying to think what was on.
No,
this
I mean, the
year.
only one might be Amy's, but she's missed the deadline, so.
Well, that's why
She
next
said she
year.
And
Other-
not that she missed the deadline, but she was thinking she would get funding in other places,
places.
and by the time
Yeah.
the
And so the
deadline had
reason,
passed.
when I found out about that, was I'm trying to sort of refocus the department heads, right, that regardless of where you may be getting the funding, it's still a capital project that we should have visibility on, the need and whatever, regardless of where the funding source comes from. So that's kind of why it was a late ad. I think they just thought, hey, we have this project. They applied for the whole amount, obviously didn't get that, and so.
Would it be just good practice in the future if you are going to seek a grant? You don't know if you're gonna get it, but it could be CPC eligible to also seek that
Correct.
funding.
Both?
Like,
Yeah.
is that greedy, or is that,
No.
would that be?
No, I think they may plan on putting in for CPC as well.
And you can do it kind of retroactively with CPC? In other words, like, if she starts the project, she can still go for CPC funding?
If she starts the grant process?
No,
you
if
mean?
she starts this project by the Herring River,
To go and finish it or something?
because she's gonna get that money this year, in fiscal '27, right?
Yeah, I guess it would depend from a procurement standpoint. You can't, what they call split bid. In other words,
Oh, you have to.
unless it may, and again, without knowing all the details of what it may look like, and obviously you can't issue a contract if you don't have all the funding
Correct.
to support it, so you have to be careful about that.
So timing is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Rich just brought up a good point. We're gonna vote on this plan next Wednesday, the 10th, start at 11. Do you think you'll have the funding finalized by then? Because we usually vote on funding as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna plan on laying in,
Well,
the
he
other
doesn't have-
capital money, I'll call it.
Okay.
Obviously, what we may or may not know is how
Free
much
cash.
free cash we have. But what you see on the sheet right now, I mean, is less than, I'll say what our draft submittal, if you wanna call it that, to DOR, so, there's not more in the free cash line than what we
You'd
applied for.
expect,
But again, depending on what they come back with, obviously, there's no guarantees on what that.
I mean, this
number-
is the most reasonable budget I've seen since I've been here, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's very, there should be no arguments over this request. It just seems very practical. Go ahead, Paul.
Just a couple, one question is, has the CPC funding for 26 town meeting, has the window closed on submitting applications?
Yes.
Yes.
For that?
Do you know when that window
So anything now goes
closes?
another year out? And my second question is,
Things that come multiple years.
was there anything, I know maybe it was last year, the year before, we had the issue about the bulkheads, so they got kind of revised, but was there anything submitted here that has been reduced?
Reduced in terms of the
reduced in
cost?
cost?
I mean, the only one that I made an adjustment to were the police cruisers, if you remember.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Well, and IT too, Tony, you took some money out of IT and moved it because they
Well, that's
had
true,
some
yeah.
funds. And then, we took out, just generally out of the plan, we took out all of Channel 8. Is it Channel 8 or 18 now, whatever? 18.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, yeah.
Because that's a whole.
That just came on, there wasn't a project there that was capital.
It seems like our role should be to find something.
Well,
Not just kind of.
according to my numbers, we found $548,000 that we
That's right.
deleted
You've
out
been
of the
so
plan.
thorough to
It's
this
something.
point that-
That's good.
It's good.
That's good, and it is the clearest that it's been in a while.
Right.
Yes.
And again, Tony, just I'll ask the question, for those things that you had decided the project should have been closed, there's money remaining in a pot that needs to come back to the town, but has to go through the town meeting process. When that money comes back, it just goes back into the general fund. It doesn't come back to,
Well, you
Can
talking
it-
about that excess capital money?
yeah.
No, we'll write the article to allow for the use to
For
fund
other
a.
Can it go into that, what did you call it, that fund?
No, not the sinking fund.
I
no.
can't go into the sinking.
No, but we'll have a one-for-one offset, right? So it'll reduce whatever we decide to use it on. It could reduce the amount of free cash we have to spend, right? Because it's
So
available.
when you do it in town meeting, do you do that one first and then reduce the request by that amount if it passes? Is that how you do it, or?
Well, yeah, so if you look at the warrant, there's several, there might be even 5. I have a draft like for placeholders. I think there may be 5 different capital articles of different types, right? In terms of what's being funded by what, right? So there's some for water that are
Right.
separate, right? So there'll be a separate capital item to be funded by X, funded by free cash, funded by debt exclusions, funded by general borrowing, right? So there'll be a capital item almost for each funding source, if you will, identified on this. So there'll be one, I haven't figured exactly how I'm gonna structure the actual verbiage of it.
Right.
To make sure it's clearly articulated, that we're doing that. So we've seen that on other articles where they changed a purpose, right? So there was money left in an article, and so town meeting voted to allow a change in purpose, right? We just did that with wastewater, with the Route 28 project.
Correct.
To allow any excess funds after we're done with the dry pipe can be used in phase 3, right? so there are ways to, what the hard part is tracking that down the road, because it could be 2 or 3 years ago. What did we do back then?
Well, yeah, like, so I always say that we, for phase 3, approved 54 million, because we technically did, but people think we're gonna, potentially we'll spend less than that, right?
Yeah, my understanding is when they did that
Fifty.
article related to the dry pipe was before they actually had the bid for phase 3.
Yes.
So the town authorized way more
Way more
money in
money.
phase 3. The bids came in at like 35 million. So, right, so we're not gonna need to borrow 54 million,
Right.
right? But we have,
And we did get some forgiveness and, or some,
yeah, there was some of that in
some
there
of that
too,
in there.
so I
This
mean,
typically is, right?
but there's plenty of headspace there, so the chances of having to use leftover money from the 28 project are probably less than 0.
Same with phase 3A, right? There's some contingency built in there, and there's some
Well, we don't have bids for
forgiveness.
that yet, so we
Oh,
always
okay,
build in
all
some.
right, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have bids for
Yeah.
that. But related to the timeline, just to answer some of the questions, right? So the CPC applications were due by 4 PM on October 1st. And supplemental documents due to CPC by 4 PM on yesterday,
Oh, then they,
No,
okay.
right? So that's by CPC policy, so.
It's only supplemental documents for what was submitted
They
on
wanted
October
additional
1st,
information.
Right, right. You can't submit a new one.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything that related to what, if they have a
When they
particular
decide.
deadline of when they actually pick their projects.
It's December.
But just related to that, so we've reached out to the finance committee, the select board is on board for the 22nd
Oh, yeah.
to get the,
The 22nd?
Did you guys hear that online?
Monday the
The
22nd.
joint meeting will be the 22nd.
pushing it right in there.
Yeah.
In the month of December, I wanted to do it on the 29th. and-
We,
Well, now I can go away for New Year's, thanks. Weather allowed. So it just seems that the CPC timing as October 1st is tough if you don't do your capital plan until after October 1st. Do you know what I'm saying? So, again,
Yeah, why send those requests out in August, though,
for the capital.
for capital?
Okay,
So,
okay.
I mean, I
CPC
try
goes
to encourage
August,
folks,
okay.
if you're looking at CPC, I think the department heads generally are on, they're up to speed on that. It's just opening the aperture to say, don't forget, that is a funding source, so if it falls within one of their 4 buckets, take a shot at it.
is that where we got Brooks Academy money last year at the end? From
No, I don't-
CPC?
No, we paid for that,
We paid for it.
and I believe we did, maybe free cash?
I don't know.
We were actually early.
There you go.
But we found time to talk about other things. So just so everybody knows that next week, we will vote on this plan and the funding sources. And we're also going to review, I put together a schedule that shows the changes in the plan that we'll submit to the select board for the joint meeting. So we'll put those together. I already put it together. I just wanted Tony to have, I did it last night at 4. So he needs some time to look at it, and it took me a long time to do it because there was an error in addition in the prior year, which is what I've been
Finding all the time.
finding all the time. Yeah.
And you've done that ad hoc, and now you're doing it.
Well, I did it officially last year, but I don't know that it got
one
in the
that-
package.
And the one before that, you did just off by yourself.
Right,
yeah.
the first year I did it by myself, so. Welcome.
Good morning, good morning.
Would you all like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Scott Carpenter, Superintendent for Monomoy Regional.
Hi, Michael McMillan, School Business Manager for Monomoy Schools.
Congratulations, Scott, on the retirement. You're gonna love it. I always say to everybody, you should retire. It's great.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah, what is Tony thinking?
I tell people I'll be probably much more like Tony. It's, I'm sort of retirement with a little R mindset. I can't imagine sitting at home, but you also at that point in Massachusetts where the state does make sense to be
Yeah,
continuing to work, so I just go into some other fashion and, but I think what I'm excited for is just the opportunity to kind of do something different. And but I still want to find some way to go have a positive impact out there,
exactly,
so,
exactly. You will.
yeah.
You'll figure it out. You try a couple things and you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
If I get a chance to fish a little bit more, that might not be a bad thing either.
Well, we're cleaning the waters for that.
Yeah.
We just did that ahead of you, yes.
I will say the challenge is not to overcommit because then you feel like you have a job again, right? You'll manage it. You'll figure it out. All right, so we did not see you last year for the elementary school. That was at the sort of recommendation of the prior town manager. We saw you the year before that. That was the first time with the Harwich Elementary School. And we have not at all ever, that I know of, Rich, maybe you know differently, talked about the regional district as a total. So this will be our first year.
That's right.
So we're excited. I think, there'll be a lot of questions. It'll take
Yeah.
us some time to, I think I feel like we're starting to get our stride as it relates to the elementary school.
Yeah.
And I think filling out the forms this year
Yep.
and being part of our process is helping
Yeah.
that a
Okay,
lot.
good.
So thank you for doing that. I know it's a lot of work. I appreciate it. So I'll hand it off to you to
All right.
tell us what we have here.
Okay, so did you get the letter that we sent to Tony, the sort of package, just so I know what you have?
Yes.
Okay, good, so why don't I,
Did you get it?
No?
Yeah, it was in the package. The package was huge. Here.
I mean, I'm gonna talk to it anyway.
Okay.
So, so why don't we start, I'll give you the high level, and then we can see how much detail you wanna get into. So, I think, first, the couple of key points that are covered in that cover letter was, the first is that the way that we are funded for our capital and debt is through the assessment. So it's not in addition to the assessment. So when you see our assessment request for, like, it goes through FinCom and the select board and whatever that is, that includes the capital and debt. So there isn't an additional assessment that's already been factored in there.
So in other words, if you pay for something outright, like say it's $50,000 and you decide not to raise debt for it, you pay for it outright, we see it in the assessment.
It's gonna be
And then
part
for
of
the debt, we see the principal and interest, the servicing cost.
It's all part of that.
Okay.
So it's just you get the town assessment is one number you get, and it's broken down, even when we present it's broken down, but it's just that one number. So,
And then for the elementary school, it's 100% of that number for the Harwich Elementary School.
yes, it's 100% of the cost, but it is net of other revenue, so when we get revenue from the state to help fund things, it kind of, that's all baked in there as well, so it gets a little complicated, but I just, we've got, in some presentations, people got the impression that we were, after we had sent the assessment, we'd then also be asking for additional funds for capital and debt, but that's not the case.
And
It's
the
all-
reason they probably have that thought is because the way it works
Yeah.
on your taxes is you have this
Yes.
excluded debt number way
100%.
above.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And for years, and so I think for years, as you sort of alluded to, we just gave you that number, and we were paying for the high school, and we were doing capital projects, and it was all just baked into the number, and it was split out based on enrollment anyway. And so, like you say, we didn't really go through the town capital process
Right.
in the past,
Right.
rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But we
And I
did,
think,
that was-
the work on the middle school probably
Yes.
came as a surprise. And so it
Yeah.
probably does make more sense, even though
Yeah,
we're not gonna vote on it, it's not gonna be part of the warrant, we all understand that, but if we can report back to the select board that we've looked at it, we've reviewed it,
100%.
I think
Absolutely.
it just helps us
Okay.
all understand, and my just overall reaction to this information is, it's a lot. There are a lot of projects
Yeah.
going on,
So there's a lot. So I think what you mentioned as well, I think why we're now here is because of the middle school project.
Right.
So everyone all of a sudden is like, oh, wait a minute, like you guys do have a lot of capital and debt needs, we should be paying attention to that.
Right.
And prior to that, the change of the agreement where now each town pays for its elementary school, so it does, those capital costs just now feel a bit more real because you're 100% responsible for them, where in the past you were just paying.
Right, and I
1%
think
each
everybody
year.
needs to understand that the way that you're able to cover your expenses and your debt is the full faith and credit of the towns of Harwich
Yes.
and Chatham. And those numbers, as I understand it, get included in the debt review that goes on with the rating agencies, so that AAA rating that we're, clinging to and we don't want to give up,
Yeah.
that's all part of that. So it's important that we have a full picture.
It is complicated though, because we also get a credit rating.
Right.
So in that,
What is your credit rating? Is it
it's
AAA?
a AA plus. So we just partly.
I would
primarily
think
'cause
you
we're
would be
young.
AAA because you have a funding source.
Because we're young, we're a child compared to Harwich, and I think that's why we just don't have that history of large debt
Oh, I see,
projects. We
okay.
don't have one. So,
That's my understanding.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah,
little
that
peak,
makes
but that's my
sense.
understanding of why we don't get
Okay,
replaced. So there's some other district I was chatting to, they were the same. So, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I also think that there's one concrete thing we also need to come out of here with is guidance on how to address a project that Michael will talk about at Harwich Elementary School. So we know at some point we need to replace boilers. They keep showing up on this list. And
But that's not the big project.
yeah.
The roof, isn't the roof the big project?
Yeah, the state has changed the rules on replacing boilers, and I think it's one of these where it's town building, and you wouldn't want the school district, the superintendent and business manager just unilaterally making a decision on what we're going to do, when we want to really make sure that we're good partners and that we're, putting all the cards on the table and having everybody understand. And I think we should get some feedback, talk about the process, but Michael and I have our instinct on what the right answer is, but want to get feedback from this.
Right.
So I think what the superintendent's, referencing is, these state mandates on it, you can't replace them, but they want you to put heat pumps in. I mean, it
Yeah.
just raises the cost astronomically.
And we've seen some unintended consequences to the green communities,
Yeah.
right? We're sort of seeing this eke
Cruisers,
out
yeah.
and into the capital plan where you used to be able to hand a cruiser over to some other department in town. You
Yeah.
can't do that anymore. You have to trade it in. And so
Oh,
then that department needs a new vehicle, right? So it,
Drives up costs.
it does drive up costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And but we all want to do what's right too. Like it's a
100%.
challenge.
Yeah.
So we'll have to just talk about that. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that decision will get made by the select board. The
And town
finance
meeting,
committee will weigh
yeah.
in on those as well, so
Yeah.
we're one voice.
I mean, I think, like you say, I think, so there is a lot here. It is ambitious. I've worked in districts where, the infrastructure had not been funded, and, you pay one way or the other. So, and I just wanted to really capture all of our needs, and we put a schedule down, we put a schedule. We say, for now, none of these things are completely failing. If one thing slipped a year, or, we will evaluate each need every year. Every time we come through this process, we evaluate. We want to maximize our use of the existing infrastructure. So I'll always, push out a year if I can, if I think there's still life in it. So while we put dates in here, if the boiler's still working and it's great, and we don't need to replace it, and it's not going to create problems, I will try and get more years out of it. But I'm always conscious that that has a knock-on effect, because you don't, if your plan is to base the boiler every year for the next 2 years and you push one back, that means you're pushing them all
Right.
back.
Well,
So
what
you
I've been saying consistently, what I've been saying consistently is the town has to figure out how to fund big projects like the sewer and still maintain the infrastructure, which is so costly to replace. We don't want to have to be replacing things early if we don't have to. And it is going to be a challenge and a balancing act that we're going to all have to figure out.
Yeah.
Scott, I'll let Scott go first, and then Michelle. First,
Th-
Scott.
Thank you. First of all, I have to apologize. I have to leave at 11:30 your time.
12:30.
But I do have one question about exempt debt, which allows us to assess more taxes than we would normally be able to do under Proposition 2.5. How does exempt debt work for district projects? Because it's not really debt service in our budget, in our town budget, like exempt debt projects for regular town administrative projects. It would be a slice of the assessment that, in theory, could be exempt from Proposition 2.5. Maybe this is a question more for Tony, but is that a thing, exempt debt within the district budget that allows assessment above Proposition 2.5?
It's a good
So-
question. I think it depends on what town meeting votes on, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's how it's initially structured in the warrant at town meetings. So, so you would vote on the borrowing costs as being above and beyond Prop 2.5. Once if it's voted in the affirmative in both towns and the debt's incurred, then it starts showing up as part of our assessment, moving forward.
Yeah, and then when we get that assessment, Scott, the treasurer, the finance department would then take that, obviously, and they would know that a certain borrowing was exempt debt, and then that's gonna get included with other exempt debt to go on the tax bills. So
But this-
that all,
Right.
that all is determined at town meeting, as was discussed
Yeah.
on how the
The
warrant
siding
article.
was not exempt debt.
Yes, it was exempt.
It was
Went to
exempt, yeah.
ballot vote. Yeah,
Okay,
it was.
okay.
Okay, so that exists.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is, I think I'm trying to work out how to look at Scott, or to make eye contact. But I think, yes, the point is, it's a strange situation, because it's in our budget, and it's coming from our assessment, but it does contribute to your debt limit, and it does have to be required to be exempt, or it will impact your
Do you-
So it's a,
Well, I'm gonna let Michelle. Michelle, you had a question.
Yeah, I just had a general question. I know that the Harwich Elementary School has solar panels, and I was just curious, do we anticipate any costs associated with the solar panels over the next 5 years? Or are those operational?
those are operational. Yeah, they're actually, they're quite old, actually. They're coming close to the end of their useful life. We just extended them for another 5 years. I think they'll be, like, I'm to that, maybe 15, 20 years old by then. So, yeah, they're just ongoing. We're just reaping benefit of those still, no cost related to them.
Do you
Okay,
all
thank
have
you.
a debt limit in the school? Like, do the towns place a limit of how much, you don't have a lot of debt, I'm assuming, right?
No.
Just the,
Just the high school.
the
and
building.
this project. Yeah, so we don't have debt limit in the same way the towns, because we're not taxing. So,
but if it,
but if it
to
hits your
Tony,
limit,
if it comes into our limit,
Yes.
and as we, this has been my point all along, as we look at sort of the sewer, at what point do we hit a debt limit? And I don't know what it is. It's a big number, as I understand.
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
So,
But that's a huge project too, and to keep our AAA rating, what's a healthy amount of debt that, like, is it a percentage of that big number that we maintain? Like, we don't have any of that thought process or planning process in place, and, and I just, it's uncertain. I'd hate for us to get there, and then all of a sudden it be a crisis that,
yeah, I mean, I haven't actually looked into this, specific
it's-
number in
I think
terms of,
somewhere
how
around
much have we
300.
authorized
It's a
to borrow
lot.
at this point, and, against what the debt ceiling is. My guess is there's probably still plenty of headroom there, but it's scary headroom. We don't want to be up at that
right, you
limit.
don't want to be there, yeah.
So,
Okay.
but that's why we look at the overall debt and look at where it has the peaks and valleys and try to
Yeah.
smooth that out. For the taxpayers primarily, when
Right,
we're talking about
right,
excluded debt.
Right.
Of course-
And of course, that goes along with that debt schedule. I mean, we've got part of that debt schedule that we've been asking for, overlaying our new requests for the next 5 years, our approved but not yet issued debt on there, and then maybe the school system on there. I know that's a big project, but it's sort of where we should be headed, so.
The interesting thing is because, I don't want to get too hypothetical, theoretical, but because, so for you, when you add debt, it adds to your debt. So you decide how much debt you want to spend, and we're making those decisions, but when we present to you, or we select to the select board and we say, our increase is 5%, and that includes, say, I just picked a number, right, 4%,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
They say that's too high, then we go back and we try and reduce, we're reducing we're looking at
Well,
everything.
it's a fixed cost for you at that point.
Yes, exactly, so it's already baked in there, so actually when they're just, once the debt's agreed, we're never adjusting our debt in the same way. We're adjusting our instructional expenditure and all those other items that are not fixed.
Right.
So it kind of is a little indirect impact.
But you are doing some planning and sort of
Oh, yeah,
trying
100%. We're
to,
kind of doing what you're talking about, and like trying to work out what's there, and that's what you'll see here.
Right.
We're trying to work out, okay, as this debt goes down and we're building those projects up.
right, and pushing those projects out as long as you can is helping, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think, and we'll get into it, but I think we've underestimated student debt in the last, where as the high school debt has gone down, we should have been adding more debt projects.
No.
To maintain that
You're doing
level.
good, keep doing, don't add the debt, don't add the debt.
But so I just worry, well, yeah, okay, so why don't we just go to these projects? So I've highlighted in the first table in this letter highlights the projects which require debt. So the one that's currently approved
is for the middle school siding. So that was approved at town meeting last year, and is currently, like, we've gone through the process of procuring the construction bids, so the bids came in a little lower than we budgeted, so it's a good start. You know, it's very early days. Don't count my chickens yet, like, because as we start to rip off the siding, we might discover additional costs behind there. But I'd much rather be here than anywhere else. You know, I'd much rather be starting from a couple of $1 million under what we budgeted for the construction part of the project. So that work's going to start in April, and then our first debt payments will be in FY27, and that will be reflected in our assessment. So we're also in the midst of a project to replace the roof for the middle school as well. So that, and I have that just as proposed at the moment, because that has not gone to town meeting yet, and that's what we'd be requesting, that goes to town meeting for approval in the spring. That right now, we are doing that with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, so they have agreed to pay 37% of the costs. So we're in schematic design at the moment, so we're working with the architects and the OPM to develop the design of what it's going to look like on the roof. That will get submitted to the MSBA's board in a couple of weeks, and then once they get approval, so it gets submitted to them in a couple of weeks. They don't actually meet until the spring, or to measure it in, and then they give us final approval, and that's when we'd have the final number to go to.
And what would we go to town meeting with? Do you have a better number by the time we get towards town meeting?
Yes, 100%, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a bit like with the siding, so we'll have our kind of architect's final, we should have to be honest, we'll have the architect's final estimate in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then,
You'll put a little
max, and you hope-
contingency on it.
But that includes contingency.
Oh, it does.
And you hope that it will come in less than that, like the siding has. So, unfortunately, it is more expensive than, construction's, I'm sure as you're hearing from other departments, construction's incredibly expensive and just keeps getting more so. And the middle school roof is a complicated roof. There's multiple, elevations, multiple levels. There's a lot of equipment on the roof, HVAC equipment that has to all get taken off. And then, the roof goes up and then it gets put back on. So those things are driving up the cost. And it's a big building, if you see, the overhead views of the building, it's a big roof.
And this might be a building that we want to come and see, because we didn't go to see it
Yeah.
for the siding, and so
That'd be great. You should
maybe in the spring we'll
Yeah.
set something up and
That
come
would
over.
be great. You should
Yeah.
definitely come before we do the siding, so then when you come back, you can be so impressed by how nice it is. Because you'll see.
See what we got for our money.
Yeah, exactly. Before and after, and it definitely needs to work. So,
I think the building committee on this has been really, trying to steer it towards a reasonable place. So part of that, the range on what the roof could be from the preliminary estimates is how much solar do you want to have that, or, how solar ready do you want to have the roof? Like, if you want to have the roof solar ready across all of it, there's, particularly the older part of the building would need to have reinforcement of what is under the roofing to be able to have a solar array similar to what's on top of Harwich Elementary School, where you have sort of a flat roof and you don't screw through the flat roof. Instead, you put a whole bunch of weight, ballast to hold the solar panels from not blowing off in a storm. But that then, if you want to go and have it all solar ready, well, there's another $1 million plus. So
is
there-
the roof, is a good portion of it flat?
a portion of it, yeah.
So if you were flying over it, like from the front of the building, you see like, sort of like, I would say very classical sort of Cape peaks, much like the old Harwich High School had these gables, but behind those gables is just a mass.
Perfect spot for solar.
A massive flat area.
And these numbers don't include the
So,
solar panels.
They don't,
And the likelihood you'd get any help with solar panels from the state is probably slim to none, right?
So the state will fund us with that 37% to get the roof solar ready, which just means that you could put solar panels on it. It'll include, I think it includes what? It includes the electrical conduit up there
And reinforcing the roof.
and reinforcing
A lot of
it.
structural.
And your building committee that you put together for the siding is continuing on with the
Right,
roof
yeah.
project? Okay,
Right,
okay.
yeah. And they've been
Okay.
great.
So Rich Larios is leaving us at 12:20.
Yeah,
Good to see you
thank
again.
Rich.
I know Scott needs to leave in a few minutes as well, but we'll still have a quorum.
If you have any questions, you know where to find us.
Oh,
340.
But I think you know, not speaking for the whole committee, but I think the general mindset of the group is, you know, sort of replace the roof with like. There is a requirement that the state has where 3% of the roof needs to be ready for solar. We have the capacity on the back side of one of those gables that there's, you know, like the backside of the main gymnasium has a sloped roof pointing in the right direction that would be capable of having that 3%. So we're trying to.
And who knows, in the future, the funding for this kind of stuff could change, right?
It comes, yeah.
And the technology as well.
Right,
Yeah.
it could be,
Technology.
yeah.
The cost.
I mean, I don't know, I think today, roof-mounted solar, we're just asking for huge problems. Would the state accept, I mean, we did
The
this in,
canopies.
is the solar canopies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's saying, look, if you want us to do solar,
Yep.
we'll do solar canopies,
Yeah.
but we're spending millions of dollars of taxpayer money on this roof, and, you know, we had this issue in Bourne where, you know, we had leaks, I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And then trying to get them back, and whose fault is it,
Yeah.
and,
That's great.
there's just so much better technology today with you know, so could you propose an offset
So
if it made sense?
So the nice thing, so the rule, the new MSP, so the MSP has a new rule, so they have all these requirements for projects that will get there, and they say it has to have a minimal amount of solar readiness. So this is the first year of this requirement, so everyone's kind of trying to work out exactly what that means. And what our architects think is about 3% of the roof will be sufficient to meet their needs. And it just has to be solar ready. So,
But there's a cost associated
But you're spending
with
money
that.
that you'll
Yeah.
never do.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So but they've highlighted at one slope of one part of the roof, and that's what would be 3%. So we wouldn't do any of the additional infrastructure to meet that criteria, just to meet that.
So the architects, their preference would be because of
Canopies,
what
yeah.
Tony's
Yeah.
saying, you know, like, if you
In the car
have
park.
a
Yeah,
shingled roof
canopies.
and you're drilling through to mount the solar, every penetration's
Is a leak.
spot,
It's
a
a
spot
leak,
for a leak.
yeah.
So, so the architects are big into, let's have a metal roof, because metal roofs, you can just clamp the arrays onto the metal. Well, so the choices are metal roof on just the backside, which you wouldn't see from the road, but that metal has a cost.
Very
And then have metal everywhere that there's currently asphalt shingle, which now there's another $1 million to have, so.
Are they
the-
hurricane strong or
John.
whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you got wind
apparently the metal
loading
roofs
and-
are stronger in hurricanes and.
Oh, they are?
But,
Okay.
but I think the building committee's kind of pushed back that they want to at least see, an all asphalt shingle base point, not a base point that has metal roofing to attach solar, to meet the 3%, but let's,
Do the minimum you have to do to meet the
Essentially.
requirement, and then think about solar in a different way in
Yes.
the future.
And,
100%.
yeah,
And
and the
so I think
canopies.
that's sort of where the group consensus is at.
Okay.
And so the roof project is essentially 1 year behind the siding project, so that would hit our budget in FY '28, and so that's when the borrowing would start to be included in the assessment. So the next project, to be honest, those are the two projects that are actually happening. Everything else is then proposed after this, or future projects. The first is the high school track and field. So that was put in with the high school, so that's 12 years old now, and we maintain it, we have testing of it to make sure that it's sufficiently, protected for, students playing soccer and football in there. But we are seeing, particularly in the track, there's cracks and gaps opening up, and we fill them
but at some point, we're gonna have to resurface that, to both this athletic track and sports field. I think we can last to 2028 to get it done, maybe a little longer, but again, it's definitely coming from, just the amount of cracks we're seeing and the amount of maintenance that's required. That's not on the same scale as the last two projects. That's
It's
like a million and a
small.
half. Yeah, and the reason, so this is maybe I should just have touched on this, because it's, only $1.5 million, it doesn't have the same budgetary impact. But that said, we still need your approval for any debt.
Right.
So maybe I can just do a quick thing about how debt's approved. So the way MGL works,
No, go ahead.
and the way the Mass General Law is that we're allowed to take on debt, but we have to inform our select boards first. So we have to inform the select boards, and the select boards then have an opportunity to reject our decision. So you have a right of refusal. That's what the law says. The approach we've taken, though, is that we've sort of sought approval rather than just avoided rejection.
And does the 1.5 million have to go to town meeting?
It would, yeah.
Because it's
if
debt.
Any
Okay.
debt,
It's debt,
that's,
okay.
yeah, so any debt.
So
I mean,
even if
doesn't actually
the
require-
select board, let's say they said, oh, we're not gonna fix the track,
Uh-huh.
it would still go to town meeting after that, or no? That,
Well-
it's dead in the water right there?
So legally, it's not, legally, unless the select board get the town meeting to vote against it, we can still go ahead with it. But I don't think we would go ahead
Right.
with it, the select board didn't approve it.
Ooh,
You know,
yeah, that would
because that's
be-
not, we don't really wanna be, we wanna work
Yeah.
with the towns, we don't wanna, try, we're wanting to persuade everybody of the need of it, get approval, cause they're gonna have to approve the assessment anyway. So,
I mean, I think there was more, angst about the bigger projects
Yeah.
Than that one.
Yeah.
$1.5 million for a.
yeah, I mean, technically, if the select board said we're fine with that, we're not gonna have to put it on the warrant, we could go ahead with it without it being on the warrant,
Oh, okay.
but that would really be up to the select board.
Yeah.
Select
Yeah,
board.
that's the smallest project.
Yeah, that's our favorite one. We like small. So then, and this is less concern for you, we see at Chatham Elementary School the same problems, not quite as large, but as we're seeing at the middle school. They're very similar buildings. They're, the shingle siding, that's starting to wear away. We're seeing the trim around the windows start to flake away and need repair. The roof is a very similar roof to what we have at the middle, not as much flat at the Chatham Elementary School, but we know that those two projects are going to be coming. That would not affect Harwich in any way,
Right.
though.
It's
because
gonna hit Chatham pretty hard, though,
yeah, but
and the one after that.
yeah, both the siding and the roof. But because of the way the original agreement's structured, there's been no impact on the town of Harwich. So the next four are projects which the next three, not the final one, the next three would all impact Harwich. They're all at Harwich Elementary School. Well, one's at the middle school. So the middle school boilers at Chatham Elementary School, Harwich Elementary School, and the middle school are all nearing, if not beyond, their useful life. Boilers can last for a long time, though, especially these old-fashioned boilers. They can last
We've
forever.
toured those boilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can last forever.
Forever,
So,
yeah.
however, when they start failing, then, they
can't
start
fix them.
leaking.
You can't fix them.
So, they're on here, so I mean, I'm always like, we can get another year, trying to get them ahead, but we want to make sure they're on everybody's radar, because
Right.
at some point, I'm gonna
And they're
be
not
here to-
outrageously, it's a matter of relativity, but they're not outrageously expensive
They're
to
not.
replace.
They're not. So,
But you
so this
can't.
is where, so to,
I
this is
shouldn't
where
say
we get
that.
into, this is
Not
where we
my
get to
money.
this point the superintendent raised. So, boilers you can replace boilers with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and they will pay for a third of the costs for us. However, as of this year, they will not
That's a change.
replace them, they will not replace them with the same kind of boilers. They want to see us put in electrical heat instead, so that involves putting in heat pumps or a, ground source, what do you call it? Geothermal heat pumps.
Oh, Lord.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
you can imagine that, that you've gone now with like a whole different technology, so the cost, the cost is potentially, significantly more.
It's not the cost of the unit, it's the operating cost.
Operating
The
cost.
cost of electricity.
Plus there's one other very interesting caveat that Michael and I had both of our jaws hit the floor when this happened, which, your roof has to be younger than what?
15 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So.
What has to be
so-
less than
Your,
15?
your
So-
roof has to be younger than
To
15
replace
years.
the boiler, with state money.
Oh.
So.
So, because so they're saying they want the building to be as tight as possible.
So-
'Cause so you minimize your use of electrical.
So you can imagine, at the middle school where the roof is getting replaced this year, the roof will be young, so potentially you could get state money to put in electric boilers or some new technology. When it comes to the Harwich Elementary School boilers, the roof is older than that, so to get state money to support replacing the boilers, you need to replace the roof, which is far more expensive.
So your choice is to buy a new boiler, one-for-one replacement.
Yeah.
And not get any funding or any help from the state. Or replace with a heat pump, get some help from the state, replace your roof, increase your operating costs.
Yeah. So, and it would also be, replacing all the infrastructure would have to change as well, because right now, all the way the forced heat,
Inside.
all that would
And-
have to come out, or would no longer be used. We'd put heat pumps.
Because it'd
throughout
be
the building.
blowers rather than.
And what is the state, it wants to be off fossil fuels by 2050, is that it?
Yeah, it's all part of the move away from that
Right,
gas.
right.
So the pipeline's not getting larger.
Well, they
Yeah.
replace new,
Yeah.
right now, that we're all paying on gas, the replacement of the infrastructure,
Yeah.
for an infrastructure that they're not gonna
Not gonna do it.
support
Yeah.
in
So,
there's
Yeah,
25
and,
years.
and there's potential additional costs, in terms of what, what would we need to do in terms of the infrastructure to actually have
Sort of like repiping.
that much electricity come into the building to go run all of the heat pumps in all of the classrooms, so, I mean, it,
Well, do you have to have multiple heat pumps, or is it just one?
Oh,
It's
I think
multiple,
it's probably
right?
multiple.
I think it's multiple, I don't know.
yeah,
the rules.
so the way the buildings operate, except the high school, is most of the spaces are on univents. So hot water from the boiler is routed into a circulator in that room that has a fan that's pulling in air from the outside, and it's happening at the room. So there's technology similar to when you go to a hotel room and you have an electric
A unit.
powered unit there that's on the wall. So you'd likely be swapping out your
Everything.
technology for something that looks perhaps like that. But again, the state is full in the middle of trying to figure out what that technology looks like, so.
I just want to, just for the record, Scott left us at 12:30. He had to, he's driving.
So I mean, there's, the flip side is, it's not all bad if we went that way. It would mean we'd replace all, we'd right now replace all our infrastructure, all our, our roof, and that would not then, because we're going to have to replace the roof at some point.
So the roof is on
Right.
here, right? Because you don't know which direction we're gonna go, or
Yeah.
because the roof actually needs to be replaced
So it's
now?
it's 23 years old, so there's, you hope to get 15, 20, you hope to get 20 years out of these roofs. And so I don't think, we don't have to replace it today, we don't have to, but I think by 2032 it will be on our list.
So
Yeah.
should that roof be on our FY 2031?
For design or something.
Did you say it was
Somehow.
32?
So we have this going, 32 is when we do the construction.
But
so then
would you
33
do what we call engineering or permitting before that, and is there a cost, and should that be on our capital plan?
So yes, I think that it should.
Yeah, they do obviously do some pre-stuff with
Yeah.
architects and things like that.
But we, yeah,
I just,
I mean,
the
it
old
becomes
rule,
sort
like,
of I don't know what you call it, sort of a tickler for the bigger
right,
project
right.
to
Yeah.
come.
But if it's you know, I think if it's on there, then nobody's surprised that it's
Yeah.
coming, right? So should we put something in 2031 showing, I'm calling it engineering, whatever your permitting planning process is, even if it's just $1 million? I don't know what the number is.
So it's there. Just a question, so what about the school population?
Yep.
Because we're talking about millions of dollars, and I'm going to assume the school population is shrinking.
It is, yep.
So at what rate is it shrinking? We're going to have these beautiful buildings
Yeah.
running on electricity, but how many people, kids are we serving?
So,
Is this the,
so the Cape population of children
Yes.
has been shrinking for, 3 decades now.
Right.
Harwich Elementary continues to be one of the largest elementary schools on the Cape. So there's, I don't see Harwich Elementary shuttering its doors because of a lack of students. I also think, concurrent to all of this, one of the school committee goals this year is to, sort of start exploring, does a movement towards universal preschool make sense for Monomoy and our towns? So if we start looking at that down the road, so Mashpee, for instance, is a town that, that went, over 10 years ago, that has programs for 3 and 4-year-olds. So while the children are shrinking, there could be a way to go and have that building running at capacity and serving
A
needs
greater,
that the community
you're serving a
has.
greater area, but this is all also tied into housing, right? So it's all in
tied into
housing, and we
Yeah.
have
I
just,
disagree. I think it's a lot of demographics. I think people
But the-
underestimate how much the demographics have just changed. I don't know that we're changing those back, but
well,
that's just
it
my
is,
personal
I
opinion.
think they go together.
We're becoming like Japan and
Yes,
Italy.
we're aging out, but we, as from the housing perspective, we've hit the 50% of our housing is now second homes, right? And unfortunately, we can't do anything to kind of stop that.
Yeah.
So that preschool group would be outside of Harwich, right? It would be more regional, or
No, just
just Harwich?
So this year at Chatham Elementary, we are running a program that we call Pups Preschool that's open to Harwich and Chatham families. So they signed up by lottery,
Yep,
and
yep,
we're running
remember
we're running a full day, full year program, full school year program for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and had more applicants than we could fit into the one classroom that we set aside. I think that there's a want and need there,
Yeah.
and again, that's what the school committee, and my administration will be doing some surveying to kind of get a feel for what direction, is our parents saying their needs are, and to look at, how can we use free space that we have in their building the best we can. Currently at Harwich Elementary School, we have a couple classrooms that we do a preschool program with the YMCA through
Oh, right, yeah.
so we are making, so the Harwich Elementary School is full of kids right now. It's, there's our kids, but there's also a preschool program that operates with YMCA Cape Cod, providing a service to families because, particularly after COVID, there aren't enough.
Those are all, they
Preschool
went
It's
away.
expensive,
Yeah.
it's hard to get into these preschools.
Yes, absolutely agree. It's just all of these things converge, right?
Right.
So it's just the question, and also the taxpayers always say, how many kids are we
Right.
supporting? So
Yeah.
with big projects, you just want to make sure that you're,
But it's also, in my opinion, this is just my
Yeah.
opinion, it's also about, you get these kids earlier, their success rate is
Yeah.
better, longer
Much
term,
better.
right? Like,
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
need this so bad, we just need to
So what,
get them all.
desperately
so what we, so like a small data point, Chatham Elementary School has also been decreasing
Yeah.
at a slightly faster rate.
right.
But this past year, because of the addition of the Pups Preschool, Chatham Elementary Schools, the number of kids in the building went up
Okay.
because we're now servicing preschoolers in the building that we didn't have, you know.
So
a
today,
classroom of 20
today is
preschoolers.
my day of asking ridiculous questions like we did the last group, but, you know, if I'm Chatham and I'm looking at the money that I have to put into the elementary school in the next couple of years,
Why would I?
any chance they would come back to Harwich?
Yeah.
They would reverse, I totally get why they did that, I
Yeah.
would agree with them on that, but is that door always open to come back? You know, like that they would say, we just can't afford to maintain the school, we'll send everybody back to Harwich, we'll go back to a joint, you don't think they
To
would
have, to have one, all elementary kids, my.
I'm asking the ridiculous
no,
questions
no,
today.
You don't have to worry about it.
I'm still pulling arrows out of my back from the last time I talked about this, but I think it's really clear that there's a want
Right, no, I
both
understand
towns.
why, I
Okay,
totally
so
understand why.
to have that
Local.
elementary school in their town.
Yep,
I definitely get it, get it, understand it. And I think the town of Chatham, by saying, hey, we'd like to see this change in the regional agreement that went through a few years back, and make sure that we're covering all the costs of that elementary school, is to make sure that they're able to keep that building open, even if it means that the per pupil costs are much higher. And, you know, so I don't see Chatham saying, okay, we want to.
let's unwind this in any way.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I just asked that question,
But I
you know,
think it's
because
only
I'm
fair.
looking at, you know, the tab here for doing that, it's not cheap.
Yeah, and I think, like in Harwich, there are people in Chatham who have a different point of view.
Right,
and
right.
who are more.
Well, from a financial perspective,
Yeah.
which is not
Yeah.
what's best for the kids, I'm not at all saying that, right? Like,
It's all fine.
to go local is a huge benefit to
Yeah.
families and kids, right? No doubt, I don't disagree, and I probably would say the same thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, financially, I
when-
have to ask the
When
question.
these articles come before school.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking,
it's,
will they still
yeah, it's
ask the
painful.
question?
It's
Yeah.
definitely painful. Okay, so maybe,
Okay.
Tony, we could just make one adjustment, and think about it,
I
if
just
you
need the
agree.
number.
Okay.
Some kind of
So
a
it's on
number.
the,
And it's an estimate, and we know it's
Yeah.
gonna change.
Well, so we have a number there, actually, 8.5 to 12 million for the,
How much is the
you
roof?
just wanted
Just
to,
a
I think.
Right.
it's
design,
For the-
Right.
$1 million to get on
So
the
a temp
design.
for this.
Million,
schematic,
okay.
that's fine.
Yeah, just to put it, and then it'll roll forward, and somebody won't say, well, it wasn't on the plan
Actually,
last year, you
million's
didn't think
probably
about it, right?
Actually, a million's probably too high. Let me have a look. at it.
Okay.
So just to come back to this, so right now, so we have been accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority program for replacing the Harwich boiler. So, you know, there's a,
So when do we have to make that decision as a town? Like, how are we queuing that up?
so this is part of this, that queuing up is coming to talk to you about it. That's the first step.
Oh, okay, so we're the queue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wanted to get, so we were accepted into the program. We knew there were some changes, but we wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to access those funds if we wanted to. So we submitted application.
And the program also shifted so that now they fund every other year instead of every year.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's like, you know, we wanted to make sure that we at least submitted to get in, you know, to get in line. And of course, once we were in line, then we heard, it's like, okay, well, the rules have changed.
Yeah.
So,
And so it's now complete. So,
So Tony, maybe a to-do for you would be to schedule that sometime in some future date with the select board to have that discussion, because
What year are we talking about? Is it for next year?
so it would not be, so the schematic design would be happening next year, so that the actual project would be likely happening.
oh, okay, I thought, okay,
I would-
we have a little bit of time.
I would suggest sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
only because we need to get back to the, like, if we're going to say,
We'll fund it.
we want to withdraw from, you know, from MSBA for this project, which means we're saying, okay, you can take the money you were gonna allocate for us and use it elsewhere. Like, we don't want MSBA to assign us a project manager and an architect for a project that's
We're not
not
gonna
going
do.
to be moving forward. And at the moment, I think I think what the state is saying the contingencies are to replace, you know, let's say, ballpark, $1 million in boilers to add a roof and all of the other costs.
I don't think that's a decision we should be making in this committee. I mean, we could maybe weigh in, but
Well, is there a cost in 27 for anything?
In 27, there may be some initial.
yeah, there's a,
design
oh, no,
costs.
it's a dehumidifying. The boilers don't come out until FY '29.
Yeah, that's, so, but this might change if.
And then
we
the
go
roof
with
goes on in FY '31.
But this would
Oh,
change.
but you'd
if
have
we-
to
but
change
this
it.
would
You'd have
change
to
if
do
we
the
went with the
roof.
MSBA. That's what we're
Oh,
part of the
okay.
challenge right now. We don't exactly, part of the problem with these projects is the state doesn't really know how it's gonna go.
This,
so
this
there's-
is this the elementary school or the?
Yeah,
is
this is the
Harwich
elementary
Elementary
school.
Because I don't have I don't have anything listed on the 5-year plan for that.
The rooftop H&V units, is that what they
That's,
are?
no,
That's
yeah,
different.
that's separate. yeah.
Oh, okay.
Boilers
So
are
this
in the
is
heat
just the-
plant, yeah.
So this is, so the need for them is further out, but if we get into this MSBA, if we go ahead with this MSBA project, it would bring them in sooner.
To this 5-year period. So then we need to make some,
Our-
And you'd have to do the roof to get the,
Yeah,
so would that bring the roof project in?
it brings it closer in.
I don't know, Tony, you want to think about it?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't, yeah, we probably need to have them come in and talk to the board about it. We can adjust the plan then.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's a big
I
change.
mean, we're going final on this next week. I mean,
Yeah,
I-
that's a, yeah.
Right, and there's always changes, right? We know that they happen, but if we need to give them some feedback within sort of the
I think
next.
that's just general feedback, and then we can always add something
I mean,
to the
if you-
plan for next.
Yeah, I'm not worried about, like, if we don't capture it in this year, I'm not worried about that. If it was something for the fiscal year, I'd be worried about it, but at least there's an awareness that this could change significantly next year.
Yeah, I think the overall challenge is gonna be, I mean, obviously certain things like a roof, I mean, that's, but if we can get more time out of the boilers, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're borrowing money, I mean, I know right now the board is really concerned about the amount of debt that the town has taken on with it's $500 million. I mean, it's just enormous. And the question is, we're putting all of our eggs in that basket, and at some point, we have other eggs we have to,
yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna come, yeah.
before they crack.
yeah.
And so how do you balance all those needs out over time? I mean, my recommendation is we've taken a big chunk of sewer on, is
Yeah.
to kind of stiff arm that. I think a lot of these changes are being mandated by the state, sewer, some of these other things are pushing us
Boiler.
into, but nobody's talking about how do you pay for
They're
all
unfunded,
this?
yeah,
they're
yeah, no,
not.
that's what.
They're gonna
that's what
And I'm
was
gonna
what we said
bankrupt
in the
towns
past.
at
Yeah,
some
yeah.
I'm in no way supporting, that we should replace a roof to go get state money to replace the boilers. Like, it doesn't make.
It doesn't add up.
Doesn't make any
it doesn't
sense.
make-
Right.
It doesn't make sense from where I sit. I also want to be, acting appropriately because at the end of the day, it's the town's building. And I would prefer to have the town say, yes, Scott, please go say no to the MSBA.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
So I'll
but-
get it on.
And have you had any discussions with Chatham yet about this?
Well, I wouldn't
Oh, it's not, it's our
it's
school.
our school.
Sorry. Well, do you have to do the same thing, though, for their
When
school?
we get to the middle school, yeah.
Yeah,
Their
their elementary school.
So the reason really we're at Harwich now is because your boiler's the oldest.
Right,
It's
right,
not even,
right.
I mean, it's in good condition, it's just, once it gets, the way the MSBA criteria works, it's almost all on age. You just sort all
Oh,
their projects
all on
by
age of the boilers.
Yeah,
Oh,
and our
even if they're
boiler's
going.
32, even if they're going, and because it's 32 years old, that's why it's an easy
Yeah.
cut.
Good maintenance, good maintenance.
Good
Oh,
maintenance.
great maintenance, I totally agree, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
when you go down, you saw
I
They
think
it.
made
they
stuff
made
to
years
last
ago
back
or
then. You get
last,
one
right?
today,
Not
and
so
it'll
much-
probably be, in 20 years,
Yeah,
you'll be
we
lucky
gone
to get
back
one.
this one.
Right, right.
It's all electron, yeah, it's.
But it's probably just something we should not be surprised, right?
For anybody, yeah.
That's-
I'll get it on a
deliver any
schedule. Is that what you like me
surprises.
to get before the board and brief
Yeah.
them on what?
I just don't want to retire and see in the newspaper,
Yeah.
retired superintendent left us in
Scott,
the lurch.
Scott screwed us on the boilers and the roof.
Boilers in the roof.
It's all right, I'm putting the budget on their desk and running out the door.
Tony keeps saying 90 days, 90 days,
I
it's less
know.
than 90,
So
right?
28 more workdays.
Count, yeah, yeah, I know. Okay, all right, so I think, I do have one question, though. When we first did a budget, because I'm gonna have to respond to this, there was a $1.1 million number, you know, and that was 2 years ago that we did it.
Yeah.
And there was a $1.1 million number out in FY '29. Do you happen to I don't have the documentation.
What it was?
What it was?
Uh,
1.115. And then that sort of, like, basically what I did to show the changes was I deleted your whole line from 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I put in your new items.
okay, perfect.
But I don't know how to explain the 1.115, because I don't
Hey,
have
I'll
the
find- Let me find out.
documentation.
That could have,
Was
could
it,
have been a couple of things. Yeah, it could have been the boiler, to be honest. It could be the,
it could have
Could
been.
be.
because if it's just a straightforward boiler, I think we thought that'd be a lot cheaper than
Okay, if you would come back
the
through
1. Yeah.
Tony, so I can explain what that was, because I can't, I only keep my stuff 1 year. I don't have it from 2 years ago, so.
So that was from FY '25. So.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
'25 budget. Okay.
And in this sheet, you didn't put any cost in there for sort of a couple of those future items, and that's because you don't know the timing yet, and,
I don't know that.
okay,
much yet.
okay, all right.
I've been burned now a couple of times with doing estimates. I know.
So I think that pretty much covers everything. I would like to spend just a few minutes, if I can, with you guys,
Yep.
on this thing about how you decide what is a capital item
Yeah.
versus what is not,
Yeah.
because I'm very confused. Even though I did read, I just didn't comprehend, I think.
So I can,
I could actually share some of the history
Oh,
on
yeah.
this, is I think how Harwich defined capital and how Chatham defined capital and how the regional school district defined capital. I think initially when we did our initial iterations of budget, over the last 13 years, we had, our computers were, part of our capital
Right, they were
planning.
expensive then,
And,
yeah.
And then it was sort of like, oh, that should be over here, so a lot of it was just trying to make sure that we're being consistent on what we're calling capital and.
So just
communicating.
for everybody, for Chatham, it's anything under 25,000. Over 25,000. For us, it's anything over
Over
50,000.
yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure how you guys.
So town of Chatham is 10 to $250,000.
Say that again?
The town of Chatham has items between 10,000 and 250,000 they call capital. 250 plus is capital, but they have separate separate articles for them.
Okay. But they do consider,
start
so
at
those are
10?
depreciable items,
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
okay. But they might not issue debt for those, they would do like we
Items
do.
with a useful life of 5+ years.
And useful life of 5
Yeah.
years. Okay.
And then so for you, for town of Harwich, it's anything over 50,000. So for us, it's essentially any equipment with a 5,000, so we use the state definition for schools, and that's what's in the regional agreement. So we use any per item with a $5,000 unit price, which actually there's not that many things that are that expensive for a unit. So that's why when we used to have computers, I was like, well, none of those computers really meet that capital threshold.
Yeah.
But it would be like a vehicle would be.
They're not, they wouldn't be, in my opinion, considered capital because
Anyway,
they're,
'cause
they're obsolete the day you get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consumable.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
consumable,
I know. So, and then any maintenance project over $150,000. So I guess, so it's
Okay.
unit cost of $5,000, project cost of $150,000.
And that was, you used the state's,
That's-
and that was in the
Definition for-
agreement.
Yeah,
So just a note in the back of everybody's head, if this agreement ever changed and there was any basis of, maybe sharing capital differently, this has to be addressed.
yeah.
Because it's not,
Well, everybody has different thresholds, but.
right, but if it's how an assessment was calculated, there would have to be clarity about an agreement that,
So if we changed, yes. So
yeah,
right
I
now-
just put it out there
Yeah.
that if it ever came to that,
And to be honest, it probably wasn't a huge issue because they were essentially capped.
Right,
They were all
right.
based on enrollment, 3-year average enrollment. We broke it out by capital, but we still just used, foundation enrollment. So
Right.
that's probably why they weren't too worried about what the
right.
definition was.
So
'cause-
like, we're asking you, anything over 50,000, that would go in our capital plan. Like for the elementary school,
Yeah.
we're using our
Definition.
definition, right?
But then when I present our capital costs, you know, they're gonna look different from what you've seen because I'm using a different threshold to
Right.
include items. So like if we bought,
So if you go to Chatham, you have a whole different threshold than you have in Harwich, and then if you present the whole plan, it's another different, which is,
Three
To be honest,
different,
a lot of work.
three different
Yeah.
versions.
yeah.
to be honest, in the end, it probably isn't a huge difference because we don't do that many capital projects, and most of them hit all three definitions.
Okay.
It's just occasionally.
So
one
how do
doesn't.
you, I noticed, you know, there, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of projects, right? And it's, you know, fixing some tile squares or something like
Yep.
that, that they're, let's say they're between 50 and 100,000, or they're under 200,000, and you're paying for them out of your budget
Yep.
versus raising debt. What is your, how do you decide that?
Which projects we do?
Yeah, how, which ones you're gonna ask debt for versus which one you're just gonna hit the assessment
So,
for?
that's a great question. You know, so we don't have a hard and fast rule for that. I would say we've not done a lot of projects that we could afford to do in our operating budget. So I would say, you know, exceptional. I would say anything over $500,000, we're probably, I don't know, we'd probably group together.
A bunch of projects
Yeah.
into that, okay.
Yeah, potentially.
I
but
mean,
we
it
don't have
looked
one
like
budget.
you have this schedule that shows projects that do not require debt.
Yep.
The total ranges over the years,
Well,
kinda 400, there is one that's 560,000.
yeah, so there's
There's one project here, upgrade the stage lighting in the auditorium, it's a $300,000 project.
Yeah.
You're not looking for capital for
for
that.
debt, we're not borrowing for that.
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I mean, that's the biggest one on that schedule, other than the, replace the furniture, which you're
Which
doing
we're
over a
trying to
long
do
period of time. As a project, that's a big project, but you're
We-
breaking it out
yeah.
in years.
So, I mean, I guess the short answer is we don't have a hard and fast rule. It's sort of what we can afford. How we, you know, look at planning out 5 to 10 years, you know, how much, you know, so for example, that one, where we know they have that large $300,000, it's like, well, let's say we've scheduled other projects, so that's really the primary project of next year, of 28, that would be, so we can get that done rather than borrowing.
So as
for-
you're thinking about your budget and you're inserting these numbers into your budget, does it affect your budget planning?
Yeah.
Yep.
So then we're reflecting that. So we do a 5-year outlook, and so these now are feeding into that because it's not an addition. So where this increases, either the overall percentage increases or something else has to go down, or you know, not increase as much. So then if we're looking at, that's putting pressure on our instructional expenditure, salaries,
Okay.
and putting pressure on those budgets for sure.
Okay,
You
all
know,
right.
But that part of the problem is that's why they often get squeezed out,
Yeah.
and that's why the things often don't get done.
Right.
You
And
kick-
it, and how- like,
the furniture and you kick the can down the road
Yeah.
to a certain point. At some point, you're looking at it saying, okay,
then it
we're
just
at this
becomes
point,
more
we need to go.
expensive, right?
It's the
you
same,
now replace all of it
Right.
once, and now you're putting yourself in the, okay,
I have
maybe
to
it
go to
doesn't
the
make-
towns
yeah,
and
I have
ask
to
for
go to
money,
high,
which is
yeah.
probably harder to do
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
yeah. How do you, what's the process for you to plan for your capital projects? Is there a person that does it for you? How do you, that's a lot of
So-
planning, because you're doing it out 10 years.
Yeah, so this is myself and our director of facilities. So basically our process is when we now have something to work with. So every year we go walk all the buildings, meet with the principals and the custodian in each building, review the needs, you know, update data we have from any repairs or maintenance that's happening to see if something needs to be increased in priority or reduced in priority.
You're not using like an outside
We're not using
firm or
those.
anything like that? Okay.
so you are the only ones who have an inventory on your buildings,
Yeah. I mean, well,
pretty much, which is
yeah.
what we're talking about for the whole, every building
So,
that we
yeah,
own.
so that's a great question. So, we're getting there really
Getting there.
slowly. So
Okay.
we have a new IT system, which is in its infancy of inventorying all the technology equipment is in there, and we're working with the facilities director to get our facilities equipment in there as well. And we're starting with just the big stuff, like the boilers.
Yep,
That's
yeah.
easy, get the 4 boilers in, and then working towards, so I really love is all our HVAC units.
Everything.
You know, because we've spent so much money on these things, and I'd love to be tracking how much we're spending on repairs. So we're not,
love to say, yes, we've got it. We're not there yet, but we're working
project.
towards it. Yeah.
But that's a big, but you're
That's a
doing
big
it, which is
project.
Are there
good.
systems that do that?
I mean, they're just, so the, this is.
You have to
we use
create
this
your
as-
own.
We use a system, we have
Like
a
a
great
model.
system actually, which we've used for the IT equipment, and that's what we're using for facilities. And I mean, it's essentially a database with a good
Yeah.
user interface.
Oh, yeah.
Makes
And
you,
then
you know, photograph,
Sure, that's how
description.
big
And
companies
you do
do it.
filters and.
Yeah, exactly. You do filtering and reporting. Oh, it'll be so good. My reports will be amazing when we get there.
Just ask ChatGPT to
Yeah,
do it.
Oh, yeah.
It might not be totally accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe big
They'll be like,
mistakes.
tear the building down.
Yeah.
I mean, but just to come back to your point, and one thing, you know, thinking about as we get more debt, is like, well, should we, and this is what our financial advisors are saying, they're like, well, are there other projects you want to do, if you're going out for some debt, should you
Get it
include,
all.
include one of these other projects, and that way you're not, it's not, you can group it in with other debt. I mean,
So I noticed one of the issues that you did, and I can't remember for which project, was
Uh-huh.
a ban. Maybe it was for the siding project?
Yep,
Was that a
yep,
ban?
yes.
So that's a bond anticipation note.
Yes.
What's the
So we-
maturity on your ban?
right now, we have one out for 6 months,
So they're short term.
short term, so we're doing short term bans just to get us through into the long term.
So that's kind of like chunks of, we need this kind of money now, we
Yes,
need this kind
for
of money
exciting
now, and then
project,
when you
yeah.
get to the end, you'll do long-term
Yes,
debt?
that's the plan.
Okay.
We'll love them together,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
And I also noticed that you reissued or you rewrote your,
The high school,
when did you do
Yes.
that?
did that last year.
Can I ask what kind of an interest rate you got?
You can ask.
But you might not have
I
the number.
remember
And how
just
many
by
more
half
years
year.
of debt do you have on that
On
building?
the high school?
On high
Okay,
school?
So on the high school, we have 15 years left.
So it's still 15 years,
Yeah.
okay.
So we saved some money, that was a great.
Yeah.
The timing was great, and we got some savings on that. So, yeah, so we're looking at, we work with our financial advisors, and we make these decisions based on the interest rates we can get at the time, whether or not to extend it or not. But what I'm trying to see if I can do, although I don't know if it'll make that much difference, is if we do the siding and the roof, and go out to get long-term rate for both of those at the same time, because then it'll
Right.
be a bigger project, we'll get a better rate for both, so.
Well,
But
it kind of depends on where the account, do you
It
get
does,
some,
it
do you
totally
get
does.
some rate from the state? Do you get some, no, so you're
Oh,
in the
just-
market?
yeah, we're in the market, so we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, so just.
not
quote
sure
it.
where the
It'll be
markets are
fine.
headed, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But we're a reliable, depending on where we are at, the market of something like that.
Yeah, a lot of times it's gonna depend on, people who are buying your debt, and if they don't own your debt,
Yeah.
and you can look attractive to them, and so
Yeah.
you can get a better, you get a better price on the bonds, you could get a discount on the bonds, maybe. Okay, all right. Anything else you wanna tell us? You've told us a lot.
So
Scott would like,
I just have one, and just to put this on your radar screen, hopefully it can come off your radar screen, but I think this is definitely something that Tony and I need to chat about, where it's a capital project that's not on the list, and I think since Michael created this list, this one popped out of nowhere. Behind the middle school, there are 6 tennis courts and 2 pickleball courts. I was summoned to the Rec Commission in Chatham, and there's conversations about there might be need to renovate, replace tennis courts. I was pushing back on, I'm not sure that Harwich is going to be all inclined to pay roughly
Anything.
Three-quarters of a million.
does the rec department sort of manage those courts?
So,
Oh, whose
so
are they? Yeah.
I think when we came together as a region, there were certain spots that were sort of like, okay, who's responsible
use,
for it?
yeah.
So the field behind Sisson Road and the elementary school was something that the town was mowing and we were playing on, and it was, so there, the bulk of Chatham has, I think, 2 tennis courts by Chatham Elementary School, but the bulk of their courts are those courts and the
Middle
pickleball
school.
courts.
Well, you know how those pickleballers are.
Yeah. Yeah,
We do.
So
Not to be trifled
so the
with.
pickleballers raised money to fully replace, you know,
Theirs.
courts and create these beautiful pickleball courts, which now are much more beautiful than
The tennis
tennis
court.
courts, which, you know, which had been, you know, they had been maintained, you know, when I know that we had them relined and the cracks filled, but they've probably reached their life expectancy. And again, it's a project bigger than any on the list here. You know, so it's between the two lists in terms of, you know, what a replacement of 6.
Are there any high school, middle school tennis teams that
So,
have used
so
those
we,
courts?
so we have like a middle school tennis that plays on them. The high school, they play at Brooks Park is sort
Oh,
of
'cause-
home,
oh, yeah.
home for the high school.
Is that tennis court owned by the town
No,
of
but-
Harwich?
Yeah,
But I think, I think there needs to be a conversation happening, like, who financially is responsible for.
Again, probably maybe a little loophole or a little
Um,
area in the agreement that
people didn't
nobody
quite get to.
anticipated, right?
And I think that, you know, when it, you know, I think the town ultimately took sort of ownership control of renovating the field area behind, you know, behind the old middle school, the cultural center now, and
we've been
the
through that.
elementary school.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's sort of like, okay, does the school department go and redo the baseball, softball field out there? You know, like,
But that's a lot cheaper to do than to replace a
tennis
tennis court,
court.
I'm guessing.
yeah, so we had one quote that was in the neighborhood of, you know, $250,000, another quote that's somewhat close to that. So it's, I mean, it's not inexpensive to replace. But again, I think there needs to be some conversations that, you know, like I was just sharing.
And we don't want to get tit for tat either. That's what, you know, you have to be a little bit careful about these discussions because then they're going to say, oh, well, you've got this over here and that's on your property and
Yeah, so-
whatever in your town.
You know, so
We've already done that with the 204, yeah.
That's not, you know, I was like, look, you know, we've developed sort of our capital plan for the year, and just, I don't, you know, it's not, you know, nobody had raised the tennis courts, but since, you know, since then, I've gone out, like, they're reaching the, you know.
The level of
Yeah,
discussion.
There's only so many times, I'm sure, that you can, you know, fix the cracks and.
And the
and
rec
repaint.
department is pushing that they would like them done, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
There's a little drumming of wanting them done.
Yeah, definitely. I even received an email from, you know, from a Chatham Summer resident that would love to see them redone. And I
Do they have any money? Could they make a donation?
Again, when we're looking at
Probably do.
the quality of the environment for the students and things with these capital projects, I mean,
They're
I'm
not
not gonna
used
speak for
always
the
for the
select board or anything,
Right,
but
right.
that's gonna be a hard sell.
Yeah,
All
but
of it,
yeah,
yeah.
but I think it's one of those where.
You
this
need an
is-
answer.
Yeah, I think together we need to kind of talk about plan, and I think that there needs to be, you know, someone, you know, my lane is supporting both towns, and I think it would be good to have, you know, have someone in Tony's role sort of chiming in on what the impact would be in the perception.
Tony, another thing for your list. Man.
It's never
Yeah, Tony-
done.
He's gonna stop coming to these
With
meetings.
38 days left, I'm not sure it'll be,
38 days.
resolved in that amount of time.
Okay.
As they try to build the budget, yeah.
Yeah.
38, don't
I'll
say
make sure
that.
it's on the list.
All right, does anybody, Michelle, any questions? You good? Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else? No more questions? Thank you for coming. We
Thank you
appreciate it. This
very
is
much for
helpful,
coming.
very
Thank
helpful.
you.
I'm glad this is now, we're now part of this.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
thank
it
you.
just will
Really
work,
helpful.
like, things like that,
Yeah.
that don't come to the door exactly at
Anywhere.
the select board, when you show up and they go, what? And then
Yeah.
you're kinda, you know,
So just last follow-up, you'll
We'll
send me a
follow up.
number on the.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a number on that. I'm gonna
Okay.
send you that 1.1.
yeah, if you could just
What
remind
is-
me what it was, I
And we'll
can't for the
follow up
life
as
of
well
me.
about the Harwich boiler replacement.
Yep.
And,
Going into Harwich, I'm going into boiler repair.
I know.
I know, that's what I know.
So I just remind you, our next meeting is the 10th at 11. We're going to vote on the plan and the funding, and we're also just going to quickly, hopefully, be able to review that change worksheet that I did. Give Tony a little time to review it and make comments on it.
Yeah, just the final version of this may not get you until Monday.
No,
It just
that's
depends on the
fine.
time I have to put the other funding
Yeah, like I
sources
said, I
in.
don't think there's anything controversial on here. I'm not,
No.
I'm not
All the
sensing.
project stuff is in, the funding
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm not
we can-
sensing this is one of the years. I mean, last year was a different story. There were a lot of things that just were not on the plan and
Yeah.
that were controversial.
Much
and
better place.
I just don't think that we're gonna hit that level this year. So this should hopefully,
We're good.
maybe some changes between December and April or whatever, but I don't think they're gonna be major, hopefully. But I think we have to raise the two issues that you've raised
Yeah.
today somehow
came up.
through the select board,
Yep.
just to put it on their radar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
And-
you so much.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ann, Paul, Michelle,
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Ann? Aye. I'm an Ann. I'm an Ann, I'm an I.
You're an aye.
I'm an Ann.
All right.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank